Hi friends, I'm John Laspina. Spices is the topic for today. I'm your carnivore teacher, and some people use spices on a carnivore diet or a keto diet, and some people don't. Some people are very dogmatic and they say if you put any spice on anything other than salt, you're not a carnivore. You're not going to take somebody's carnivore card away from them. All right, spices are the concentrated versions of plants. That's true. So if a plant is very high in oxalate and you take the spice from that plant, that spice, just a little sprinkle or an eighth of a teaspoon, is going to be very concentrated in that oxalate. That is why we say spices are not a good idea on carnivore. Some spices are harmless to a lot of people. It just depends on the individual. Turmeric, for example, is pretty high in oxalate. Even though you will hear the commercials and people saying how wonderfully anti-inflammatory turmeric is. And it is. It'll get rid of a headache, it'll do this, it'll do all these wonderful things, but they never talk about the negative side to turmeric, and that's the oxalate content. Oxalates, I think you know if you watch any of my videos, are these microscopic shards of glass type substances in the turmeric, in the spinach, in the cacao bean, in the raspberry seed. That's builds up in the body, in the joints, in the kidneys, binds with calcium, tries to exit the body to dump out, and it causes pain and inflammation and can cause kidney stones. We don't want oxalates, so I stay away from all oxalate-containing foods, plants, and I stay away from all oxalate-containing spices. Cinnamon is another one. So there's turmeric, cinnamon, black pepper. These are very high in oxalate, and I stopped using them completely. When I was transitioning and I still wanted pepper on my steak, I bought some white pepper, which has a much, much lower oxalate content. Still has it, but it's lower. And then I just stopped using the white pepper. Cinnamon I love. Oh my gosh, love the taste of cinnamon. And again, they will say how wonderful cinnamon is out in the world, how it lowers blood sugar, and it does. Cinnamon is so good for lowering your blood glucose level, but they don't talk about the negative side to cinnamon. You know, a teeny little itty bitty sprinkle to give something flavor every once in a while isn't going to hurt you. But if you're like me and you overdo everything that you like, addictive personality that I am, I was doing teaspoons of cinnamon in drinks and things. And on top of things, I was getting so much oxalate from that cinnamon. I was adding it. Cinnamon, turmeric, black pepper. I was eating spinach and having a lot of dark chocolate. I mean, come on. I was toxifying my body with oxalates. So be aware of spices as well as the plants that have these anti-nutrients in them. Some of the more innocuous ones will be like oregano, basil. There's a whole list of them that are okay. You can have a little bit for a little bit of flavor. How does it work with your body? How do you like it? So just be aware that spices, as wonderful as they have been, and they go back hundreds of thousands of years in history, as we all know, the history of spices and where we got them and how we grow them, just be aware that some of them are very high in anti-nutrients, higher than the plant versions of them. So let's ask the question, what does John use? All right, I'm a carnivore, and currently, I've evolved. I used to use spices a lot, then I started taking them out. Right now, I eat beef, lamb, pork, poultry, fish, and eggs, cooking and animal fats. You know, I keep saying that list all the time. And every once in a while, I make a bone broth soup, and in the bone broth soup, I'll go in the cabinet and I'll get a little bit of oregano, and like a little sprinkle of oregano. And it gives it a little flavor when I have my bone broth soup. In that soup, I've got meat, and I have shrimp and fish and all this, lots of butter and lots of goodies in there. And I like it, but I don't do it all the time. And I'm conscious that when I'm doing it, I'm putting a spice in there. So there's a little tiny, tiny bit of anti-nutrients that I'm getting. I don't use pepper anymore. I told you that I went from black to white pepper, then I stopped using pepper, and I don't really care for pepper on my foods. Tonight we're actually making beef ribs on the Traeger grill. We're smoking them starting at 12 o'clock and we're finishing them by 6 o'clock. Very slow. There's a whole method. I did a video on how to smoke pork ribs and beef ribs. And we do make a rub. And the rub does have some pepper, but I use the white pepper for that. And we use other things that are fairly low in anti-nutrients. And I just dust the top of them. And it's a dry rub. And I don't put any sugar or anything in there. But you can do it without that. You can make brisket and you can make ribs with just salt or salt and white pepper. And it's just as delicious and tasty and healthy. So spices, think about the spices in your spice cabinet. If they've been sitting there for lots of years, like some of mine have, I pulled them out and I'm like, okay, I remember this bottle from when I moved here 8 years ago, and I know it was in the other house. It's time to throw those out. I don't know about you, but I don't know why I save them, right? So throw them out. And don't buy anymore unless you absolutely decide that you want to try something from a recipe and it's very low in an anti-nutrient. Google them. Find out how these spices have concentrated anti-nutrients. And some of them are ones I recommend you stay away from. I really do. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't talk too much about spices here, but I wanted to bring the topic up to make you aware of spices. Yes, you can use them sparingly to flavor things, but just be aware that some of them are very high in oxalate and other anti-nutrients. Find out which ones. I shared a few in this video, and you make the decision of whether you want to continue to use spices in your carnivore or keto way of eating. I have slowly been eliminating a lot of them, and I almost don't use any now. Salt is the best spice in the world. It really is. Thumb me up if you liked my video, subscribe and share, and I wish you a wonderful day.